Have you ever felt like you were making a decision, but deep down, the real reason wasn't because you wanted to? It was because you were afraid. Afraid of failing, afraid of being abandoned, afraid of not being good enough in someone's eyes. These fears are not illusions. They are biological responses rooted in your hormones, nervous system, and childhood experiences. The first fear is the fear of isolation, a deeply human fear closely tied to the hormone oxytocin. Oxytocin isn't just the love hormone, it's a neurotransmitter that helps us feel safe when we are seen, accepted, and emotionally connected. Every time you're hugged, truly listened to without judgment, or simply present in a group where you feel recognized, oxytocin increases and signals your brain that you belong. But when you're ignored in conversation, when no one hears you, or when you feel invisible in a familiar crowd, your oxytocin levels drop drastically, leading to a sense of emptiness, distance, and disconnection. Have you ever been the quiet one in a group of friends? Have you ever shared something heartfelt, only to be met with silence, and then stopped sharing altogether? That's when the fear of isolation quietly takes over. It makes you shrink, stay silent, and remain in relationships you no longer want, all because the fear of being alone feels even scarier. But here's what you need to know. That fear is a signal that you're craving real connection, not shallow presence. And the beautiful truth is, when you begin to recognize and name that fear, you're also giving yourself permission to reclaim what it truly means to belong. The second fear is the feeling of not being good enough, a quiet but persistent fear rooted in the imbalance between two hormones, dopamine and cortisol. Every time you achieve a goal, receive praise, or feel recognized, your brain releases dopamine, a reward hormone that makes you feel proud, complete, and worthy. But if you grew up in an environment where expectations were always too high, or where you were frequently compared and criticized, your brain gradually releases more cortisol, the hormone of stress and alertness, than dopamine. Over time, your nervous system begins to prioritize survival over self-satisfaction. As a result, even when you succeed, instead of joy, you feel anxiety, self-doubt, or even emptiness. You might have degrees, accomplishments, a title, but still feel like it's all just luck. You hear compliments, but believe they're just being polite. Deep down, you don't truly believe you deserve the good things in your life. This isn't just a lack of confidence. It's a coping mechanism shaped by years of having to prove your worth, until you forgot that you were never meant to earn your value moment by moment. And sometimes, healing doesn't look like trying harder. It looks like pausing, breathing, and whispering to yourself, I am already enough, even if I'm not perfect. The third fear is the fear of failure, a fear often mistaken for laziness or lack of ambition. But in reality, it's connected to the overactivation of adrenaline. In high-pressure situations like giving a presentation, confessing your feelings, or launching a project, adrenaline kicks in to boost alertness, sharpen focus, and help you act decisively. But if you've ever experienced painful failure, a rejection, public embarrassment, or simply falling without support, adrenaline stops being helpful and becomes a warning siren. Each time you try to take an important step, your body tightens, your heart races, and your brain screams, stop, danger, and so you avoid. You have a brilliant idea, but when the time comes to act, you're suddenly too busy. You have feelings for someone, but keep waiting for a better moment. You know what you should do, but your brain chooses inaction to protect you from shame. Not because you don't want success, but because the hurt part of you is terrified of another wound. The more you avoid, the bigger the fear grows. And the most dangerous part is that you start to believe you're incapable. But the truth is, beneath the surface of procrastination is someone who once tried and got hurt. And sometimes, overcoming failure doesn't mean proving anything to the world. It simply means daring to take one small step, even if your hands still shake. The fourth fear is the fear of losing control. Not the kind that explodes or runs, but the kind that freezes. In psychology, it's known as the freeze response, a primal survival mechanism triggered when stress exceeds your ability to cope. Not everyone screams or flees when scared. Many people go still. You know what you need to do. Reply to emails, start your work, clean your messy room. But you just sit there, staring at your phone, emotionless, unresponsive. It's as if someone pulled the plug. That's when your nervous system shifts into protection mode, momentarily disconnecting action to prevent psychological overload. But others can't see that. They only see you as lazy, as procrastinating, or as not trying hard enough. Meanwhile, you're trapped in silence, fully aware of what needs to be done, but too depleted to begin. This isn't weakness. It's a signal that your system is overwhelmed and exhausted. And sometimes, what you need most isn't motivation. It's self-kindness. Just one gentle moment to exhale and say, I'm not okay, but I'm still here. And that, in itself, is a beginning. The final fear, and perhaps the most silent of all, is the fear of not being allowed to be yourself. A fear that seeps into every choice, every word, every emotion you swallow just to keep the peace. This fear is tied to serotonin, the hormone that helps regulate mood and inner balance. When you live authentically, speak your truth, and do what you love, serotonin flows steadily, bringing quiet contentment. But when you constantly adjust yourself to fit in, saying yes when you mean no, choosing safety over honesty, serotonin slowly declines with every compromise. Eventually, you begin to feel lost. You're no longer sure what's real for you. You don't know if your feelings are truly yours or just habits of pleasing others. You work a job you don't love because they said it's stable. You stay silent when mistreated because you're afraid of conflict. You agree to things your heart quietly rejects just to keep the harmony. But harmony with whom, when inside you, there's a silent war? Over time, you lose your personal boundaries, and the deepest loss isn't what you did, it's the slow erosion of who you are. But here's the truth. You don't need permission to be real. You don't have to be good enough for anyone to say, this is me. And often, the journey back to yourself doesn't begin with a big change. It starts the moment you choose something true. These fears are not flaws. They once helped you survive, in situations you couldn't control, or when you were too young to fight back. But you're not in the wilderness anymore. You no longer have to live on reflex. When you pause and ask yourself, is this choice coming from what I want, or from what I fear? That's when you begin to awaken. And when you awaken, you're no longer being controlled. You're finally choosing how you want to live.